On the program today, our focus is on debt management, and of course, this is coming against the backdrop of statements or responses by aides to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in defense of the loan request that is currently sitting at the table of the legislature. I'm talking about the National Assembly. Statements such as there is no sin in borrowing, that which can be attributed to the special advisor to the president on information and strategy in the person of Bayo Ononuga. And of course, we've had several responses from the presidency in the person of Mr. Sunday Dare, who is a special advisor on public communication, who also said that a nation like Nigeria can embark on a project such as the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway without going on borrowings. Now, looking at these two statements, if truly there is no sin in borrowing, just as Bayo Ononuga once said, at what point does it become a sin? And of course, what does Nigeria, in terms of the people living in the country, need to do at such time when it becomes a sin? Now, to have this conversation this morning with me, I am being joined by Mr. Mohammed Kabir, who is a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Mr. Mohammed, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Now, Nigerians, especially some section of the country, believe that Nigeria is more or less like a business entity that needs funding to be able to engage in its day-to-day runnings. So at this point, if truly Nigeria is a business entity, what is wrong with getting loans to run the economy?
Okay, thank you very much. I'll start with this saying that is attributed to Benjamin Franklin, who says, "He who goes a borrowing comes a sorrowing." And in that light, I'd like to say that, borrowing really is not a sin. Like Bayo Ononuga said, it's not a sin. However, it's to become a sin if what you are borrowing for is not tied to development, accountability, and utility. And historically, Nigeria has been borrowing post-independence in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s during the structural adjustment programs, and in the 90s, then the 2000s, and up to date, borrowing has been a part of our governance culture because we have deficits of infrastructure, health infrastructure, roads, and every other thing. Because the yearly budget that we see is always run on deficits. So in that light, a responsible government would want to meet up with some milestones in order to bring about development. However, what we've seen so far has been a sort of disconnect between borrowing and the actual results in terms of the life of the citizenry. The citizens are complaining because they've not been able to see that connection between that borrowing that the government has claimed to always borrow in order to improve the lives of the citizenry. However, it has always become a burden, a social burden, an economic burden, and a lot of pains for the citizens because we only hear it on the news. And we read it in the newspaper and we hear it all around on social media that government is ready to borrow X amount of money in order to do a specific project, which sometimes we don't find it. Cases as, we've seen cases where previous governments have been able to successfully borrow and the burden has been passed down upon the generation, especially what we are facing now, critically in our economic life and in our political life. Nigeria is currently facing economic hardship, and the current government has attributed it to previous borrowings, whereby there has been mismanagement and there has been disconnect in what has been borrowed and the outcome of what they say they will do, or what the people have seen. We've seen inflation rise, we've seen the cost of living rise, and we've seen a lot of things also rise. However, what we have seen also is that this government has been able to pay off some of the previous debts that has been taken. We recently the 3 point something billion billion dollars that has been paid to IMF, and some other loans that have been repaid, just to increase Nigeria's fiscal outlook and to give us that ratings that Nigeria is a country that meets its obligation, because there has to be a balance with every other thing. And also there is a statement which I can't remember who I can attribute it to, but the statement says that you can't build roads, hospitals, and every other infrastructure based on hope. You need consistent contribution. You need consistent contributions and investment in those areas, and those things are not built on hope. They are built on financial inclusion, and you need to borrow when you know that you don't have that power to take on those projects right now, but you have the potential to actually pay back those loans. The question is, does Nigeria have that potential to pay back? Yes, if our government has done the right thing. For example, this current administration has taken off subsidies, which has opened up a lot of avenue for more money, according to what we've been told. More money. We've seen that local debts are being paid by states, and also foreign debts by the federal government are being the obligations are being met, and this is what we have seen so far. But however, the thing is that while that will not be counted as a sin, but it is going to be a sin, and it is a sin for the citizens not to feel the impact, especially the positive impact of these loans.
Now, when you look at issues from this angle, by saying that it has been part of our culture, post-independence, to always be in that, habit of, as it were, carrying a begging bowl, permit me to use that word, to go asking for loan. Now, before we even look at the Tinubu-led administration, you said he has attributed some of the problems he's dealing with to past loans that have been taken by previous administration that weren't paid back. As we have it today, yes, thankfully, some loans have been paid back. But since the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration came into being, it has, according to record, there is no fewer, than 15 requests that he has made thus far in the last 2 years of his administration. Before we talk about the recent loan that is sitting currently, on the table of the legislature, can we first of all look at what has been done with the loans that have been taken? No fewer than 15 could request. Because for, Bayo Onanuga to make this statement, that's like a defense to make Nigeria see it like there's nothing wrong. Yes, there's nothing wrong actually in the real sense of the word in going for loan. But of course, there is a part in the Holy Book that says that, the borrower is always a slave to the lender. If truly Nigeria as an economy cannot run without going for loan, or cannot run loan free, let us first of all check what has been done with the monies collected thus far. Let's even start there.
Okay.
What's your take on that?
Well, currently, I would say the outlook of what has been done with, let's look at the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. We heard that was 30 kilometers commissioning was done last week, and according to the statement, it has been a public-private partnership between the government and the contractors, whereby the government has been able to to drop like 30% of that fund. I'm sure that apart from that infrastructure being captured by the budget, still part of it will have come or will be part of the funds that were borrowed. And obviously, according to the statement and every other indications, that project will be funded with borrowed funds and private partnership from the contractors and every other stakeholders who are willing to make sure that that project comes alive. And it's a super highway. And according to the statistics, a lot of jobs will be created and a lot of seamless opportunities would be something that we look forward to. And these are things that sometimes we will not see in our present days. Present days meaning it has to take, this project takes time. Apart from the fact that budgets are made yearly, but we always know that these things are always transferred from one budgetary year to another. And these are things that, what have the government done with it is that currently we have a government who claims or who has tried to show that you have your state governments who are now meeting up their loans obligations, they are paying their salaries. We are not hearing that, okay, this state is owing salaries. We have state governments are taking on projects on their own. And so the thing is that there are enough, I can't say enough, but there are sufficient grounds where we see that governors are not complaining that they don't have money.
Okay, pause for a while.
Okay.
When you say let's look at it from the state level,
Yeah.
we understand that some states are doing exceedingly well when it comes to paying off, civil servants or salaries for civil servants, as it were. That's on consumption.
Okay.
I'm talking about capital projects.
Okay.
Now, my question initially, which I'm going to rephrase again, is before we talk about the current loan to the tune of 21 billion sitting at the legislature, what have some states at their level done when it comes to capital projects? Because come to look at it, Nigerians won't live on flyovers. If you are building flyovers, how does that in itself translate to improving the living standard of those or residents within the state? For instance, it took me aback when I heard that some Nigerians pay as much as 250,000 to 300 just to get a small apartment under the bridges in Lagos. So if you're telling me that they are doing well by paying salary, that's just on consumption. What has the state done to be able to make sure that low-cost housing projects are commenced and seem to have been completed for Nigerians to be able to afford a decent place of abode? That's my question.
Okay. Thank you very much. In that light, and I'd like to state this. In as much as we want to, I acknowledge the fact that the citizens, every one of us, we are going through a hard time, right? And it is clear, it's clearing to every other person. Now, the issue is, can we place everything? For example, we have Lagos State, because I live in Lagos. I won't be able to speak about other states. Now that we have Lagos, we can see the infrastructural steps that are taken. However, what we are looking at is what other social interventions, the social interventions that the governors or let's say the governors are taking to make life easier for the citizenry. Particularly, I know that the Lagos State government has been able to float some other avenues. For example, we have the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, where you can actually access loans depending on your level of business. Your level of business.
How many Lagosians do you know that run or float a business that have accessed that loan?
Well, I can't give you statistics, but personally, I know a few friends that have currently been loans have been approved, because the platform just opened
without any political affiliation.
No political affiliation. I can guarantee you that. No political affiliation. And as a matter of fact, Lagos State Employment Trust Fund has offices in all local governments on LCDAs in the states. All you need to do is go to the local government secretariat, locate those offices. We have young, vibrant and well-trained guys that are there.
I can tell you for a fact,
yes,
that this information that you're just unveiling right now, it's alien to residents in Lagos, because not everyone are privy to this information that you have. So how do you think Lagosians who are struggling to be able to have a business going to meet their needs will be able to access this fund if the information is not out there? How much information is Lagos State putting out there to make people aware that really you can access some certain loans or funds, as it were, to be able to run your business? How much information is out there? How much sensitization and awareness campaign is being run by Lagos State on this basis?
Okay, thank you very much. And I think that would be a challenge, a call to action for the Lagos State government and the guys around that areas to work on right now. But I can tell you for a fact that I also heard about Lagos State Employment Trust Fund online.
All right, so while we're not delving into
Yes.
that, now let's look at the statement also attributed to Mr. Sunday Dare, who is the special advisor to the president on public communication.
Okay.
He said that Nigeria cannot embark on a magnificent project as the Lagos Calabar Coastal Way without going on borrowings. Again, I ask, Nigerians would not live on highways. If you must embark on such projects, building highways, which I feel there's nothing wrong in it, but if after the completion of that project, it does not translate to forcing down the cost of goods and services, yet it's on the sky high, of what basis is such coastal highway to Nigerians?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me tell you this again. Development comes with with painful outcomes. Development, like you just said now, will come with. We shouldn't delude ourselves about the current situation of Nigeria. Okay, Nigeria runs on a deficit budget, and if we actually want to meet up with world-class infrastructure, we need to go borrowing. However, like
right. let me just pause for a while, because I hear we just have to go for a short pause, and when we come back, we'll take your thoughts on that. Please do stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, earlier we've been talking about debt management with respect to responses from the presidency in defense of the loan request by the federal government. And of course we have our guest here who has been giving us his take on the matter. So you were saying something about the issue of how much importance it is, especially with regards to projects as the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway that needs borrowing. So let's hear your thoughts on that.
So, like I was saying, a world-class project like that would need counterpart funding, borrowing, and a lot of private partnership arrangement in order to make sure that the burden is not passed directly to the government, as that the burden is not passed to the government, and there will be funds, some other funds to cater for some social intervention to make sure that even though the effects might be hard, it won't be too hard on the citizenry. So that is why the federal government also has some of those projects or some of those programs, like the student loans platform. Those are areas that the federal government is looking at, is making intervention to make sure that these things, because by the time that the children of the poor, so to speak, or the children of the average people can actually pay for their education without any kind of interest there, and the federal government is sure that When these students get job, they will start repaying those loans, interest-free.
There are other burdens, especially with regards to the student loan, that you think is a way the federal government is, carving out to make life easier while they go on that borrow. Because I can tell you for a fact that it's as good as you look at it from afar, but by the time you get closer into it, you get to find out that there are bottlenecks. How about the issue of unemployment? So when you take loan and obviously you are expected to repay, there is no job. What happens? So you are indebted.
Of course.
So let's not even look at that. Even you're not even talking about the process of getting or accessing that loan in itself.
Now the process of accessing that loan, you won't expect, for example, let's look at it this way. If you want to access loan and it's so easy for you to get that loan, it's going to be taken for granted, right? There has to be process, there has to be scrutiny, there has to be criteria for you to be able to access those loans. Or else every other person who doesn't even qualify to access those loans will apply for it, and they will get it, and they will still use it for the purpose that it wasn't meant for.
All right, so now that has been addressed. Now let's fall back to the issue we're talking about. A situation where we do not have a legislature, as it were, that should be completely independent from the executive. A legislature that should be able to scrutinize requests brought forward by the executive, and in most cases decline such requests if there are no realistic plans as regards, first, what to do with the loan that you're requesting and how to repay back. What do you think of such a legislature?
Okay, before I go to the legislature's angle, we all know that there is no way Nigeria will get, a country like Nigeria will get loans without any plans to pay back. Those who are borrowing Nigeria money, they are not daft. They already look into the books of Nigeria and they know that Nigeria has the capacity of repaying.
Yes, they do have the capacity to pay, but we've had cases in the past where loans taken could not be repaid even after that administration left office, and now the new administration coming on board have to cry foul that, oh, I inherited debt from the previous administration. So my question to you now is, as we have a loan request sitting on the table of the legislature, can we have a legislature that can stand or rise to the occasion to say no to this loan request? You have to tell us what previous loan you've taken, you did with it. Can we have that kind of legislature that we do not have now? A legislature that, as it were, has a speaker or a leader who is parading himself as an appendage of the executive. A legislature that wears a cap of a symbol, sign or chanting, as it were, the song, on your mandate we will stand.
Okay. What kind of legislature do we prefer? Do we want a chaotic legislature, or we want an harmonious legislature?
What do you mean by harmonious?
I get your point in the sense that the legislature should scrutinize the request for loans, which is their duty. The oversight function that they should perform, they should go through it and make sure that no stone is left unturned, and they get to report back to the people of Nigeria that yes, this loan, we find it to be necessary for XYZ project, because currently the budget we have is not sufficient to cater for it, and the time that we need to cater for the infrastructural requirements of Nigeria. Let's look at this super highway that we are talking about. We heard that it has been proposed from the time of President Shagari, over 50 years now or so, and this is 2025 that the thing is just coming up. Can you see the disconnect in funding projects and the actual money that we think we have? So in a way, the legislatures will have because sometimes we look at things in a pedestal way. They will have gone into some kind of work, internal work, and I've seen that, okay, this is necessary for Nigeria to take on, and Nigeria has that capacity to repay. But the problem is, how transparent, what is the accountability framework that has been laid on the floor for us to be able to know that these funds will be used judiciously and it's going to translate to the transformational lifestyle that the ordinary Nigerians want. And also let us note that, let's look at the issue of River State, where the governor and some members of the legislators, they had back and forth. You understand? They couldn't get together. The state is feeling it right now. The state will finally bear the brunt. The governor is not too much disturbed by that. He has his money, is okay, and the other legislators, they are also okay. But look at the citizens. When they say when two elephants fight, the grass will suffer. If we have an executive and the legislature that are always at loggerheads, Nigeria will actually, the pace of development that we intend to see might slow down.
In as much as we don't want that kind of chaotic situation, I'm saying that we have never seen a legislature that will say, let us, as part of our oversight function, set up an independent panel of inquiry to do proper audit of what has been, as it were, taken as loan in the guise that they are going to address, A project, B project, as it were. Okay, let me put it in clear terms. You say you're coming up with a project that will address education, that will address healthcare, right? That would also provide for affordable water and employment opportunities in time past. Can we have a team of individuals, independent, that can audit what has been taken thus far, that has been claimed to have addressed A, B, C project? Can we have that kind of team from the legislature to be able to do a proper audit?
Okay, I won't be able to speak on that because I'm not a legislator. I'm not a member of that place, but I think they will listen. Some of them will listen to this, to your request, okay? And it's a call to action for them that people are demanding transparency and accountability moving forward. And we know that this request has not even been approved. Currently, it is still pending because they are actually doing what you are asking for. They've set up committees according to the constitutional requirements, and their duties to look into all these areas. Even though we have like 80% assurance that they might still approve this.
Are you talking about a committee that has been set to look into that, when the president himself has already commissioned 30 kilometers of that particular superhighway you're talking about?
You can't.
So which comes first?
Okay, now
are you talking about looking or having an overall view of the project?
Okay.
The sincerity behind it.
Okay.
What they would do with it, as to a project that has already begun and already commissioned halfway?
Let's look at this. These things are in phases. The reason why we have a 30-kilometer highway that has been commissioned is because that phase has been completed. We are moving to another phase. And with that, I think this is what is next, right? So everything, just like I said, we have yearly budgetary allocations and plans. All these things are done on a year-on-year basis, right? However, what I'm looking at is this current loan. It's not even, if you look at it critically, they are just requesting for an approval, because it is not only federal government loans that are included. Because according to the Debt Management Office, these are forecast or like an approval for even state loans. Because states that are taking loans are taking those loans in the name of Nigeria, okay, even though it is domesticated to that specific loan. This is a request that covers. They mentioned those of some of, according to the statement, right? Some states are mentioned like Abia, Sokoto. You understand? Some states are mentioned in that framework.
All right, now, so we don't have much time. We're really pressed for time. Nigeria has this custom. In fact, the Tinubu-led administration is the first of its kind that will commission a road that is half completed. Now, when will we as a country, because we don't have much time, I just want you to address that within 1 minute. When will we at a time be able to depart from the custom of commissioning road projects? Because given what it takes to commission a road project, such resources should have been utilized for other projects. True or false?
True, false. Let
How
me
do you
tell you
mean?
something. We are a country that we forget easily, and I'm sorry to say that. People will still come out and tell you this government has not done anything. Hence, politicians have devised a way or means of stamping their project, no matter how small it is, to make sure that you guys hear what it is. Because most of the time, these things just get forgotten and everybody goes their own way. And people will still
What
say...
about press releases? Would that not be enough?
Press releases are not... will only be enough at when people like you and me, some other people read. But that commissioning, by the time the president is moving from one place to another, and people see that, okay, they are commissioning a project here, it's a kind of awareness. So
but we're talking about the resources that is not even there. The resources that is even scarce.
Can we look at the percentage of the resources used? Because that should have been part of the budget for that project itself. It should have been part of the budget for that project itself. So what we need to look at is that we are a peculiar set of people. Let me give you an example. If you do something and you don't make noise about it in Nigeria currently, you are as good as you have done nothing. Okay, we are here right now speaking about this
but
thing.
in other civilized climes, we've not seen cases where they do ribbon cutting. So why is ours different? Are we not also practicing democracy?
We've seen that ribbon are being cut. I might not be able to give you specific examples, but we have it all over the internet that government commission projects, right? It might not be as with much
ceremonial
like we do here,
yes.
Because like I said, we're a peculiar set of people.
Okay, so we'll be able to come back to this conversation.
Okay.
I can assure you that. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed Kabiru, political affairs analyst, for giving us your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, that's our offering for you this morning.